Hey guys, it's Ellen. Welcome to my channel. Today we're doing a super simple, loose and easy watercolor spring landscape. I know some people struggle with landscapes. I know I in the beginning just struggle with landscapes, but this is super easy. You're just, splattering in color, you're washing in color, then you're intentionally, taking your brush and making some nice beautiful stems. This is a great little tutorial to do if you're kind of like stuck on what to paint. It's kind of an impressionistic style as well. So we're going to be putting in some actual like straight on color and then some watercolor color. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Leave a comment to tell me what kind of things you're struggling with. Maybe I'll do a tutorial on it. Also check out my Patreon. I have ad-free videos, traceables, exclusive tutorials, and a live stream in the top tier once a month. It's just a place people go and support my channel, which I appreciate so much. You can check it out in this little doodad on the top right hand corner in just a second. So without further ado, let's get painting. Alright guys, so let's go over some supplies that I'm going to be using. I have a piece of Arches 100% cotton cold pressed paper. It's a 9x12 piece. I just taped down with some Scotch Magic tape on it, just like a thick old piece of cardboard, so I can move it around if I want to. I have paper towels right here. You can see my fingers. A couple of water jars up top. Paintbrushes I'll be playing with. You can use a 1-inch flat craft wash brush, or I have this 3/4 inch brush from Princeton. It's a Velvet Touch series. You can just get a cheap one like this, a craft brush. It's a little bit bigger. I'll be playing with my Princeton 10 Neptune series, 8 long round Velvet Touch series, because it has a great point to make like little grasses. This is a super duper easy. Like you can make this as hard or easy as you want to for this like landscape. And envision, I have no reference material in front of me. I'm just playing with color, wet on wet techniques, and just seeing where the paint goes, right? And then I do have to think about is where I want the horizon to be, like the sky to be. Do I want it all the way up the page, just have all this part be the land mass, or do you want it smaller than that and have more sky? You have to think about those things. Or do you want it half and half? Depends on how you want to do it. I might want to make mine like 3/4 of the way up, and you could, if you just can't picture it, you could just draw just a line here, and then of course there could be mountains behind there. It could be like little land masses, so I might draw some little land masses just like that. So I'm just using my 2H pencil, just going across here. I'm not doing a straight line completely because the land wouldn't look that way, but I'm having a little mountain here, blah blah blah. So now from here up, I'll have my sky. From here down, I will have my land. Now I've already mixed up some colors. I talk about this in a lot of my videos, or 1,000 times, so it's kind of monotonous. I just take cadmium yellow deep and I mix it with peacock blue to get this medium green, 50-50 kind of. I add more yellow to get the lighter green, and take the same green again, put it over here, and I add some Prussian blue to make it darker. And if it looks too bright for the dark blue green, you can add some brown or some red, and that will just make it a little more, not as bright and blue kind of tones. So for the sky, we can play with, I have ultramarine deep here, and I have this color called verdtier blue. So you can kind of play around with those two, right? And then if you wanted the mountains back here, kind of in the purple tones, you would use maybe the ultramarine deep, maybe with some bright rose here, or some magenta. Just pick a nice light purple color. So let's grab our flat wash brush, right? All right, so we grab some water, and I'm just gonna wet the area above the little landmass that I made, right? So I made some little mountains here. You'll see that in a second. So I'm just getting this wet. Maybe a bigger brush would have been better because it's a little more, hits more of an area, but I think this one's pretty good. So I'm just gonna go and grab my brush and get that sky area all wet. And now we can just play with adding in the sky color. I can still use this brush. So I'm going to have ultramarine deep. Just kind of wash in a nice pretty sky. See, I'm adding more water to my ultramarine deep. It's pretty wet, so the consistency is more of like a tea, like really loose tea. Now you can just put it up here and kind of bleed it down too. You can lift your paper. That's why you put it on the cardboard for two reasons. You're taping it down so it doesn't just go crazy, and then also so you can maneuver it like this. See, I'm just grabbing some paint on my brush again, more color. If you add more water, it will bleed faster. And it's going to stop exactly where there is water. See, it's going to stop and puddle. See that? Right here on the left, stopping and puddle. You can kind of move it down. So I'm making this blue sky. I want it a little bit lighter. So you're just playing with this, you know, you're just moving this around. Now where it puddles, you can kind of lift it with your brush. Just like that. Kind of push it around. Show them who's boss. And there you go. Now I didn't get every area, so then there's some nice white sky parts of cloud. It could be, if you wanted to take away some paint and make more clouds, I'm going to add some more paint down here. There's a method that I talk about. There's many ways. You can use a paper towel and make clouds, but it doesn't look as natural. So clean off your number 10 brush or whatever round brush you have. Paper towel close by. There's some green on that brush. And so you're kind of just removing the paint like a mop. You're kind of twisting it, tapping it on the paper towel. Now my brush was a little dirty, but you see how I'm grabbing water and then twisting it and then lifting up the paint, the clouds. You don't have to do that everywhere. And it might be nice to have a little darker element of the blue up top. So I might go back in with my brush, get some more of this ultramarine deep. See how deep that is. Put some more color in here. You know, I want it a little bit deeper in some areas. Make little lines. You can't go wrong. Now, if I want to keep this a cloud, I might add just a little couple of daps on the bottom here. And maybe in between. Look at that. Just kind of have a fun sky. There's no right and wrong method to this. This is when you play. Okay, now we're going to leave our sky alone. Don't touch your sky. We can't touch the mounds behind it right now because it will bleed into it. We're going to work on this part. This is the fun part. We're just going to go a little bit crazy here. Now, if you want to have flowers, which we're going to do in here, and you want to keep them nice and clean, you might want to paint those first. So for instance, open up my brushes. I can use a number 10 at this point. If you wanted to have some pink flowers, I have bright rose here, which is so pretty. So you could paint them in with the green, but they're going to get a little muddy, right? Or you paint them after the green dries, but it will have to go on top of it. Because it's watercolor and it's not a gouache, you can't paint on top of the color and get that same vibrant color. You would have to paint that first. So if you wanted to put some bright pinks in here, you know, just dabbing like some pretty flowers, you kind of want to paint that first. You can paint some green around it. So I'm just dabbing in some pinks, you know, just picturing maybe there's like a little field of some pink flowers. Just going like that. And I'll show you how it looks if you point it in afterwards. It's a big difference. So obviously, if you're painting with the pinks first and you want to put some greens in, you're going to have to kind of paint around them. And you can make some bigger blooms in the front. Right? And see, I'm just kind of tapping, dabbing, making this roundish blooms. They don't really have like a shape per se, but you kind of get that they're flowers. And they would be bigger in the front and smaller on the back. Okay, we start off just doing something simple and light like this. Now I'm going to go back and grab my flat wash brush and start playing with some greens. I'm grabbing more water, putting it in this green, this light green. I'll play with this one first. So let's put that way in the back. It's fairly bright, but that's what we want, spring, right? Just play around with that. I'm grabbing more water. And I'm just putting that down, see? Grabbing the water. And I'm adding in the green. Now I can grab this medium green in here and start playing with adding that. Can add a little, take on the side of my brush, some peacock blue, get it even brighter. So I've grabbed the medium green and playing around with that. So the clanking you hear is me putting my brush back into the water jar. So see how it's, you're going to kind of have to go around. Now when you touch it, if it's not dry, it's going to get a little muddy. In some instances, it's not a big deal. But if you want a clean, pretty kind of floral, you don't want to do that. So I'm just kind of putting this bright green color in. And here, because I put those flowers in, you're just going to have to slowly kind of go in between them. Now some are still wet. And so what will happen is that pink will bleed and will kind of make a brownish green. And if you don't want that, you're going to have to just take your time. I'm still using this flat brush. See, I'm just tapping it in between. Grabbing some more yellow, see that? And the peacock blue to make that green. Just kind of going in between the flowers. I'm kind of just twisting my brush. Now some will bleed, and that's okay. Now I'm going to kind of leave this bottom area white. I'm going to play around with that in a bit. If you want to kind of like scour some of this dry brush down the bottom, do that. So what I mean by dry brush is that there's minimal water. It's not really moving the paint around, so you get this kind of rustic dry look. Now go back in and grab these other greens. This medium green is just a little too bright for me. I'm going to add a little burnt umber to it, just in the corner of my brush. See, this is still damp up in here. We're going to be putting trees up in here and the mountains in the background. So just adding some deeper green back on the horizon. Here's the darker green. And there's a method to that. Why I'm putting the darker green, it's way in the back, right? So it looks way, way back there. You can kind of put some of that deeper green in between some of your little blooms. Now I'm still playing with this flat wash brush. I haven't even used the other brushes yet much. So you can use these flat wash brushes for all kinds of things. I'm just kind of twisting it, putting the color in between those pinks. See that? See, I'll just twist this brush. And then you can take it on its side, kind of make some like little stems. There's a lot of fun you can do with the flat wash. You'd be surprised. Now I'm getting the paint a little thicker, hardly any water. See, I'm going in here and just putting in some nice stems. And you can do from the bottom too. A little expression coming out from the side. And this is how I like to play with these kind of brushes. So now I'm going back in here, adding in some more color. Green. Grab that medium green. And I'll grab some more of that. Darker green in here. And maybe these flowers will create a shadow, right? And some more of that light green kind of in here too. So you can see like the landmass kind of playing around here. So at this point, I'm going to wait till this stuff dries in here. I'm going to put my mountain in. And that will be kind of in a purple tone. So I'll add a little bright rose to my ultramarine blue. See how purple it is? A little more blue to it. And I'll water it down. Add some more blue. So more of a blue purple. I really want this watered down because I want this fairly light. Add some water. We get some nice purple mountains. So here we're just playing with color. See how I left those? That area fairly light. Go over here. Put this one in. We still haven't done our trees yet. So here we're going to grab more blue. So you can see actually the mountain is more distinguished now. Boom. We got this other one, and then we have one in the back. We'll have to wait the other ones dry before we paint that last one. So we're going to let that dry, and we're going to come back. Let that one dry. I'll add more blue, maybe even some of this verdtier blue, kind of in the color. Tap again, and then I can still use this brush. And then we have a mountain way in the back. Now I just made this up. There's no photograph. And just picture how it's going to look. Can make it a little bit darker if I wanted to. But again, we're just playing. And then this doesn't have to be purple. It can be, you know, it can be green. You could have had like green in there. I decided to make it purple. I can add a little more color to this one. I feel like it's faded. All right, so then we have to wait till all those mountains are dry. I'm going to add another color tone to this one before we start to put in our trees. All right, so everything's dry. I've shown this video, well, not this video, I'm sorry, this type of technique, making a fuzzy tree before. I'm going to show you again. Now, this is how you make it when you already painted this whole kind of section. You take clean water, right? Go back over your little mountain and areas here. I'm just not going to go all the way up. Just going to go, you know, 3/4. But go for the edge here. And then you grab your tan brush. Give her a nice dark green. It's got to be fairly watered down. And you can tap it and it will start to bleed, just like, see, the more you tap, the more it's going to bleed. You get that fuzzy tree. And it's going to keep going like that where the water is. So then you can grab some light green ones. Tap it. Keep tapping. See, I'm tapping. You want to go a little taller. And you make some little small ones. Just make those fuzzy trees that you see. And this is just like a fun, simple thing to do. You can add a little, I'm going to grab some Prussian blue, put that on here. You're like bleeding color into, you know, it's still doing its fuzzy thing, right? It's still spreading out. This is just fun to do. Okay, so if it dried a little bit, I can feel the water is dry. I'll go back and add that water. And I'm going to put some trees over here. So I've got some dark, I'm going to add some more dark fuzzy tree. Kind of bleeding here. It really went crazy there, right? I like to grab that nice bright green. Put a couple of those, maybe even like a medium green one. Now you don't want them like dot, 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 dot. You know, just kind of use your imagination. Figure out where they're all going to go. Adding in some of the color. You can put some of the color in front of this one. Even some bright green. Maybe a little one there. Right? You kind of want to just play around with. You could have them all go across if you want to. But this is just a simple kind of fun little technique that creates those little fuzzy trees. You can make them bigger if you want to. All right, if you want to make it really big, just keep adding that water to bleed it out. Just make sure there's water up here, you know, to keep bleeding. Otherwise, it's just going to stop. So if mine stopped, I'll have to add some water. Oop. Making a little bit of a mess. But you see, it will bleed more if you put the water up there. This one's bleeding pretty good. And I can kind of have it tilt it upside down to bleed even more. Right? And add some color when it's upside down, bleeding those fuzzy trees. It just creates such a fun little look. A little organic kind of fuzzy tree. Now if that one stopped being a fuzzy tree over here, you can just spray it with a spray bottle. See, that kind of stopped right there when I had the water. And that's how you make simple trees. You don't have to fuss and muss over trees. We can put some other trees in the foreground too, like just grab your brush, kind of just little dabs, tippy dabs like this, right in the front. It's all just about play. So at this point, you just kind of let your trees do its thing. It's bleed, have its fun. If you want to add some darker tones, I'm going to go back in and add some Prussian blue, some brown, come back and add yellow. Get those tones in here. It's kind of wet, so you're going to be careful. Just don't bust with it too much. And then just going to go back in here and add some more color. And then you can go and add branches and, you know, the tree trunk in a bit. So now that's drying. We can go back to our fun little green area here. Start taking some darker colors and just doing, I'm adding some Prussian blue again, yellow, just some darker tones back here. Taking my brush, add more Prussian blue, even a little darker back here. And adding some darker value again on its side using the flat wash brush. It's just a simple landscape. And then you can start to have fun just like bleeding in some other browns. And see, I'm adding some browns and the greens. Kind of out here. You want to do all your greens first, and then I'm going to go in and add some more flower colors. Going back in and adding some bright green. I'm just going to keep playing, adding in some green tones in this little field area. Now, while I add these green tones, I'm going to tell you about something that I love to do, and I'm sure you're going to guess by now. But I'm going to put this green in here. A little more Prussian blue. Sorry, that's peacock blue. Get some brighter green. See how I have multiple different colors of greens? You want this variety. You can have all this fun. Now I'm just going to add some more water, some wash of green, yellow green up here. And we're going to do some splattering of some white gouache. And why? Because it's going to create this really cool effect that I love to play with. See, now I made that green kind of filled in. You can kind of fill in between here. But you can only do this when it's kind of wet and damp with the gouache. To get that effect, I'm going to add some darker tones. Kind of play with that in here. See, I'm just taking the brush, moving fast, trying to get this color in here. And I went over some of my pinks. If you want to go around it, go ahead. Okay. Get this fairly wet. The yellow, I'm adding some yellow. And now I'm going to take some white gouache. Of course, this one's not working. Sorry, guys. Real-time tutorial. White gouache. I will water it down just a bit. Because it's got that chalk in it. When it hits that watercolor, it's going to do a different effect. Now, the bigger the brush, the more bigger the splatters. You know, smaller brush. Let's see what we got here. If you don't want this top area to get any white, then you want to cover it. So you might want to cover this section. and then go to town on this section. So it looked like little flowers out in the field, right? Now, you can also add a color to it, which I talk about all the time. So if you wanted to add the pink watercolor, if you don't have a pink gouache, so here's the pink. I'm going to add the white gouache to it. Let's see what happens when we do that to the pink. And you get this beautiful pink blooms going across. See that? Because it's gouache, you can add it to it. It gets that opaqueness, and you can do the same thing with yellow. Now this yellow, actually, take it right from the tube. Splatter that. It might show up like nice little flowers itself too. This is the fun. Okay, look at that. You have a field. Now you can strategically stick in some blooms. I might take this cadmium red light, which is a nice color to break up all those other like, kind of bright pinky. I'll take my Princeton long round brush and just kind of tap in, tippy taps, some of the red. See? So they can be like red poppies. This is how you get just kind of that loose, floral, kind of impressionistic style flower field. Just gonna go in here, put some in the middle here. And I'm just taking them straight from the tube while this is still damp. So it's gonna bleed a little bit. And putting it around like the pinks and the yellows, just to break up this bright, cheeky kind of pink. I mean, obviously a little tinier out in the back here. And then you can, if you want it to look like a little field, you can have them going kind of in a row, but break it up a little bit. See, I'm kind of going on a line, going out like this. So this wildflowers, poppy-ish. And that's what you do. It's kind of tabbing right from the tube while this is still damp. See, and I'm just gonna, now you can do this with white, you can do this with pink. The pink from the tube will be really dark, you see, but I added the gouache, it became light. And then put some bigger ones down here, like real poppies, straight from the tube. So you do this kind of like maneuver like this, I'll show you. Take it, hold the brush on its side, kind of wiggle it, and then wiggle this way, wiggle down, and connect it. And you got these little poppies, kind of looking flowers. And you want them bigger in the front. Just like that. Right? And do as many as you like. And then you take the Princeton long round and you just take some of the dark greens, mix up some of those dark greens, and then you add some stems coming down. It's like a nice point. Whatever brush you have that's like a nice point, and you can kind of just take your brush and just swing down some nice stems from some of these blooms. Now it's still damp up here, so it's going to bleed, so you might have to wait till it dries. If it's dry down here, swing down some stems, and then you can kind of make a little bit of leaves kind of coming off of them as well. This is how I do this. I'm grabbing blues and greens, darker greens, blues, maybe a little, whatever color, like deeper color. So I've got that ultramarine blue. Just kind of go in here and kind of making these dark green stems, kind of really loose, right? Got the Prussian blue in here, just underneath here, pulling it down. Now I have cut a few videos where I show that I do this. All right, so I show you that. I don't have to show you everything. And then we'll go into the tree a little bit. So you can make fuzzy trees, take some green and kind of go up into the tree and make little, well, this one's still wet, little teeny branches. So if you can see this one, deeper green or even a brown or a black, and you take your brush and make all those little branches. that. Just like that. You don't have to do that everywhere, but on some of the trees it's nice. I'm gonna wait till those dry and come back. So when they're dry, I can go back in here, put a nice big bendy kind of trunk, and then add all the little branches. You know, and I wouldn't do it in, you could do it in a black, but I would do more of like a deep green or even a medium green. So you see them, but they're not super predominant. It's just like a nice little touch. And then the little one being a little lighter. This is the fuzzy green trees. It's just something to add to them, right? You don't have to do it in every single tree. I kind of lost my tree here. You can kind of create one by just pushing the color around like this, and then add, if you want to add the brown, you know, tree trunk. See, I'm going to add like an actual tree trunk on some of these, and then put in the green. Just kind of wiggling little tippy tops. Same thing with this one. So we have some fuzzy trees, non-fuzzy trees. We can kind of go in here and make this non-little fuzzy trees going like that. There's many ways you can do it. So once this is all dry, you just go back in with some lighter greens and some medium greens, as well as the deeper green. Making a little mess with my yellow here. And you just kind of go down and make all these little stems. And I would go and add some deeper color too. So I'm grabbing some of the Prussian blue, putting it back down here. And you can get real fancy with some, you know, leaves down here if you want to. Put some little stems with just leaves. Put a little critter in here. You can put some butterflies. You can put some, like a little rabbit in the field. It'd be kind of nice. Oops. And also you can take your brush. I'm going to water it down. Kind of put it on its side here, and I'm just going to put some deeper color like this going on its side. See? A little dry brushing, some deeper color. Same thing here with the trees back here. Just dry brushing, and in some areas, just some deeper green. Give it more interest. So it's not all this like one shot green color. And then back in here again. Maybe you get a little more serious with your stems and your flowers. You can make them look pretty realistic if you want. I like the splattering method. I like the loose method. But this is something any beginner can do. How you're playing around with color and flowers and just making a spring field. Right? This is the impressionistic style. Just doing these stems coming down. Make some realistic stems. You can make some branches. I'm going to make a branch. And then I can put other colors in too. I have this, right from the tube you can use these. You know, I talk about this color all the time, this verdtier blue. It's a watercolor, but it's, if you take it right from the tube, I'm kind of activating it right now. It's such a beautiful color, blue. It kind of reminds me of the Impressionistic blues they use in their paintings. And I'm just kind of tapping that, tip tap, all around and adding that color around. So you're creating a very impressionistic style. Now I have this lovely lilac color from Holbein. Same thing. It kind of looks like the pink we have though, right? So maybe I'd add more of that blue. The verdtier blue is a great color. Here it is. Number W295. Gonna add some more. I think the other one was like dried up, so it wasn't activated. But like here I am, just taking it straight from the tube, which I show you in my Matisse inspired video. So it's watercolor, but you can kind of play around with it like gouache. And just tap little teeny ones out here. I mean, this is so much fun to do. You can mix this with white gouache, and you have a lighter blue. Now this is something you want to do when you're stressed out and you want to create something pretty and fun that gives you life. And that's what I like to do, these fields. You just create. And then you can take the yellow too, straight from the tube. Put some nice yellow ones out here. See, you can kind of go in a line so it looks like almost the field is full of them. There are these yellow fields all over London. I mean, not London, excuse me, the countryside. When I was going to Stonehenge on my recent trip. It was wild. So I'm kind of putting all those little doodads like that. Teeny little dots. Little scribbles. Way back here, even way back here. I can add some more yellow up front. Guys, this is so much fun. You can do this. Any beginner can do this. Just playing with color, washing in color, tapping in color. This is what it's all about, you know? All right, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you have any questions in the comment section, let me know what you struggle with landscapes. I'd love to hear it. I know a lot of people struggle with certain things, you know. Landscapes could be one, could be clouds. I'm not the greatest cloud painter, but I try. I might try and do a tutorial on that. And just like, you know, like I said, splattering the colors, it's much easier. So see how I painted those pink first and you can see them. If you want to go that route, that's great. The splattering is kind of like, I like to do that route. So there's different ways to do it. Like I showed you, this, paint it first so you can still see that light pink in here, right? Or you could splatter it, you know, with a gouache, either or. So take care, guys. Thanks so much for stopping by. Please have a great day. Try to de-stress. Try not to think about all the sadness that's around. And I just tried to paint to and teach you how to paint to alleviate some of that. So I hope it works. Thanks so much for stopping by. Take care and speak to you soon.